You don't hate people. You're just exhausted from pretending social interaction doesn't drain you anymore. And the scariest part is, almost nobody notices. Because outwardly, you still seem normal. You still reply to messages, still show up to dinners, still laugh at the right moments. But internally, something feels permanently overstimulated. There's a kind of exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. Not a nap, not a weekend off, not even disappearing for a while. Because this tiredness isn't coming from work. It's coming from constantly carrying the emotional weight of being around people. And after a certain point, your mind quietly starts begging for silence. Not because you're cold, not because you've stopped caring, but because being emotionally available for everyone all the time slowly becomes its own form of psychological exhaustion. And if you've been feeling unusually drained lately, there's a chance your social battery isn't just low. It's been overused for years. Sign number 1. Socializing leaves you exhausted far longer than it should. You go out for a few hours. Nothing dramatic happens. The conversations are fine. People are nice. Everyone seems happy. Then you get home and collapse onto your bed feeling emotionally emptied out. Not sad, not angry, just mentally muted. Like your brain attended something far more intense than the event itself. Because for certain people, social interaction is never passive. Your mind is constantly analyzing expressions, adjusting tone, monitoring reactions, filtering thoughts, calculating responses. And while everyone else simply experiences the interaction, you process every layer of it. Which is why silence starts feeling less like loneliness and more like recovery. Sign 2. You feel lonelier in groups than when you're completely alone. This feeling sounds contradictory until you experience it yourself. You can sit in a room full of people and still feel emotionally disconnected from every conversation happening around you. Everyone's laughing, everyone's talking, and somehow none of it reaches you. So you perform presence. You nod, you smile, you respond at the correct moments, but internally you feel distant the entire time. Because surface-level conversations can create a strange kind of emptiness. You leave realizing hours passed without a single moment that actually felt meaningful. And honestly, being alone sometimes hurts less than feeling unseen in a crowded room. Sign 3. You've started lying about being busy just to protect your energy. Someone invites you somewhere, and before you consciously decide anything, your brain already wants an excuse. I actually have plans, I'm tired tonight, maybe next time, but the truth is, you just want peace. You want one evening where your nervous system doesn't have to perform. And the amount of relief you feel after canceling plans says something important. Healthy connection usually restores energy. Constant relief from avoiding interaction usually means interaction itself has become emotionally expensive. Sign 4. Small talk has started feeling unbearable. Not difficult. Draining. How have you been? How's work? What's new? Normal conversations begin feeling strangely empty, almost robotic. And you hate that they exhaust you because, logically, you know they're harmless. But emotionally, they feel like another performance. Another moment where your brain has to stay switched on while saying things you barely care about. Over time, even tiny interactions start feeling heavy. And when ordinary conversation begins feeling like emotional labor, your mind is usually already overwhelmed. Sign 5. The people you love most get the most exhausted version of you. This part creates guilt. Because you notice yourself becoming impatient with the people who actually care about you. Your partner, your best friend, your family. Not because you love them less, but because by the time you finally reach safe people, your emotional energy is already gone. You spent the entire day regulating yourself for everyone else, pretending you were okay, pretending you were present, pretending you weren't mentally drained. And eventually, the exhaustion leaks out somewhere. Sometimes through irritation, sometimes through distance, sometimes through silence you can't even explain. Sign 6. You fantasize about disappearing somewhere quiet, not in a dark way. in a peaceful way. A small cabin, a quiet coastline, a place with no expectations and weak internet, somewhere nobody already has an opinion about who you are. Because what you're actually craving isn't isolation, it's freedom from psychological noise. Freedom from constantly maintaining versions of yourself for different people. And maybe that fantasy isn't escapism at all. Maybe it's your mind trying to imagine what rest would finally feel like. Sign 7. You miss who you used to be around people. You remember a version of yourself that felt lighter, someone who stayed longer, talked easier, answered calls faster, actually enjoyed social connection. And now, even replying to messages can feel mentally exhausting. So part of you wonders if something broke inside you somewhere along the way. But maybe nothing broke. Maybe you simply became more aware. More aware of which people drain you. More aware of which conversations feel fake. More aware of how expensive forced connection actually is. That isn't becoming antisocial. That's becoming selective. And selective people often look distant to those who only valued their availability. So no, you haven't lost the ability to care about people. You've just reached a point where your mind can no longer tolerate shallow connection, pretending to be meaningful. And honestly, that realization changes everything.